we're talking about what happened in Nashville about a week and a half ago. Different tragedy, but the same unproductive response. That is the words of our next guest, Benjamin Ayanian. Benjamin, did I butcher your last name too badly?
No, you did great.
Thanks. So you're right, and I read this piece you did about the way that Democrats are responding to this tragedy in Nashville is both it's predictable and kind of sad because we're not making any progress, are we?
No, we're not making any progress, and it seems to be the same exact response that we see after every mass shooting. After the Uvalde shooting, we saw Senator Cruz was confronted in a restaurant by an anti-gun activist who, blamed him for the death of children. We see the White House press secretary doing the same thing here, questioning, she said, how many more children have to be murdered before Republicans in Congress will step up and act to pass the assault weapons ban? And Joe Biden is also calling for an assault weapons ban. And it's really frustrating because, we have the data that show that the assault weapons ban, whether or not an assault weapons ban works is either inconclusive or it's highly unlikely. That's what all of the largest studies show. And so it's really frustrating to see Democrats push these policies time and time again that in effect would not do anything to stop these tragic events that we're witnessing.
Well, Benjamin, first of all, let's talk about the words, because words mean something. I say that all the time, and it seems that we like to argue over definitions. Assault weapons, we can't even agree on what an assault weapon is. They might as well just call it a scary-looking weapon, because that seems to be the only justification for a lot of these things. If it's painted like black, if it looks like it's got some stuff in the middle of it, maybe it accepts some sort of a clip, then it's got to be an assault. It's got to be an assault weapon. It's not just, and they always like an AR style assault weapon. It almost seems like the first thing they're looking for the moment there's a shooting is they got to figure out what kind of weapon, and if they can go ahead and call it an assault weapon, because that way they can make it into it's about these deadly assault weapons that we're using, as opposed to, I don't know, a gun. And it's one of those. It's one of those things where I think you don't want to look at the real problem. The real problem is the person pulling the trigger on the weapon, regardless of what the weapon is. It's the person. It's the heart of the person, and that's what we have to get at, because we're not spending nearly enough time addressing that problem.
Oh, absolutely. Rifles get a lot of the public's ire because they do look scary, and it is true that they're used in plenty of high profile shootings. That's also because, generally speaking, like AR-15s, for example, they're very popular firearms. So the odds that they're used in any shooting, aren't going to be low. And I think that since they look scarier, people think that getting rid of them would solve a lot of problems.
Well, Benjamin, the reason why the AR is so popular is because it's a good weapon. It does what it's supposed to do. A gun is supposed to, I hate to say it, but that's what guns are designed to do. They're designed to kill people. We can't think about it like the old Westerns where like the good guy would shoot the bad guy in the hand to make him drop his gun. That's not how it works. It's center of mass. So people get these weapons and they use it for what they're designed to do. And it's a very effective tool. And that's what a gun is. It's a tool. And we can't blame the tool. It's the person wielding that tool. And that's the reason, Benjamin, why I'm tired of hearing time and time again that it's the tool's fault. It's this transgender woman's fault. The person who actually pulled the trigger. We're always looking for somebody to blame. How about the person who did it? Not the laws, not the politicians, and not the tools. Because I'm sorry, the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. You know what stopped this shooter? It was law enforcement with guns.
Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. We need to start looking at the person and focusing on them and the issues that they had. They're the ones that ultimately pulled the trigger. Plenty of people have, various types of firearms, and they don't go out and commit terrible crimes. And so focusing on the type of gun is not going to do us any good. It's interesting, after the Virginia Tech shooting in 2007, or even after Columbine, we didn't see widespread calls to ban, pistols, and those were the guns primarily used in those shootings. And so it definitely is odd that everyone wants to focus on rifles after all of these mass shootings, especially given that there's such a low percentage of used in such a low percentage of firearm crimes generally. And yeah, we definitely need to start focusing on the person, not the politicians. You're right. Good guys with guns stop bad guys with guns. I wrote a piece about that exact topic in the American Spectator after a private citizen stopped a shooting in a mall in Indiana last year. And so you're 100% right that good guys with guns stop bad guys with guns. Trying to get rid of guns is not going to make the world a safer place.
Benjamin Ayanian, thank you so much for joining me this morning on Alabama's Morning News. I always like to hear a perspective. It gives me hope that the next generation actually might have something on the ball, might be able to actually do something when they go to the ballot box, because boy, do we need some thinking people on the younger end of the spectrum.